What's up, guys? Emily here with emlovz, and today we're going to be doing a reaction video to Courtney Ryan's age gap relationships and the science behind them. So let's dive in.
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Courtney Ryan, and today we're going to be taking a look at age gap relationships and the science behind them. So what piques my curiosity about this topic is obviously the questions that I get constantly from you guys, asking my opinion about them, what I think. Half your age plus 7 is something that I see commonly online and in comments from all of you. So today we're going to take a look at some statistics and articles about age gap relationships and really the science behind them. Do they work? Do they not work? Why do they work? Why do they not work? And really just get down to the nitty gritty about them because so many of you guys are interested and the whole world seems to be interested. This is a hot topic that people seem to feel very strongly about. So let's get into it. This says in Western countries, 8% of male-female couples have an age gap of 10 years or more, rising to 25% in male-male unions and 15% of female-female relationships.
Interesting.
Psych Central. It says, is age just a number? If you're wondering whether an age difference could impact your relationship, this is for you. We have a chronological age, a psychological age, a physical age, and a sexual age. Age gap couples frequently are compatible in the last 3. Even if you're satisfied with your relationship, it's possible to encounter some challenges with a large age difference. Confronting and problem solving these challenges, which often have to do with outside judgment, could lead to an even greater happiness in your partnership. I think the judgment is different for when the man is older versus when the woman is older. When the woman is older, it's like, oh, she's a cougar. Oh yeah, she's going after all these young men. It's never creepy. It's always either, oh, good for her, being with all these young men, or taking a look at the man and being like, why would he want to be with an older woman? That's the judgment that I see online for when the woman is older. But when the man is older, it's often viewed as perverted, creepy, weird. Of course, we're talking about 18 and older. We're talking about consenting adults here. I'm not talking about illegal relationships in this video. I'm talking about 2 people who are of age of consent, 18 or older. Please keep this in mind as you're watching. But it's interesting that the judgment is often different when the man is older versus when the woman is older. I've never seen someone say that an older woman is creepy for dating a man who's significantly younger than her. It's always just like, oh, she's a cougar, he likes older women. But
I agree with her, but I do think it's kind of weird when there's a significant age gap, even if the woman is older. Like, I would still be like, interesting. Okay, cool.
I share the statistics with you here before we go into kind of more details about it and why it works, why it doesn't. So personal bias and judgment aside here, just going off of the statistics, it seems as though it doesn't seem as though the statistics are showing this to be the case. As the age gap increases between 2 people, the likeliness of the relationship being successful decreases, which I think is really interesting. So divorce rates also increase as the age gap between 2 people increases. And that's for a lot of different reasons that I'm going to cover. The bigger the gap between partners, the more likely the relationship will struggle with phase of life related challenges, says Gina Marie Borino, a licensed mental health counselor and founder of PsychPoint. She explains that these challenges might include differences in health, energy levels, life priorities, and plans to start a family. And then she also says having different priorities isn't exclusive to relationships with large age gaps. In any relationship, it's key to discuss each person's priorities and hopes for the future as a part of determining their compatibility if they're looking for a long-term relationship, which is true. I mean, if you get into any relationship, regardless of if you're 2 years apart or 20 years apart, I think it's important to be on the same page about what you're looking for and kind of what your goals and ambitions in life are. If I'm a 26-year-old woman and I want to have a family and I were to date a 40-year-old man who didn't want kids, that would not work out. And it would have probably nothing to do with the fact that the man is much older than me and more to do with the fact that we just want different things. So I think regardless of age gap, it's important to want the same things. But on the flip side to that, I think that can also be the reason why it works out for some people versus why it doesn't work out for other people. So really the key is just finding someone who has values, ideas about life, and goals that align with yours. And I think that has a more likely chance of the relationship succeeding That's something you should be paying attention to more than the number of years between the two. I do think life experience, maturity, and again, these phase of life changes make a big impact on relationships in general. But especially when there is such a big age gap between the two of you. You know, if you are an older man looking to be with a 20-year-old woman, she hasn't experienced much life. She maybe, is still figuring out what she wants to do with her life. She maybe doesn't quite know who she is yet. While you might be 50 and you've experienced much more life, you've gone through more things, you know what you want, you know what you're looking for. So sometimes I think it can be difficult for those reasons of just a life experience difference level. And again, that might work out for some people. Maybe this 20-year-old or 21-year-old or 25-year-old, whatever the number is, it can be literally anything. Maybe they are more mature. Maybe they know what they want. Maybe they are very goal driven and have known what they want for a very long time and aren't all over the place or are constantly changing their mind. In that case, it might work out. Or maybe you're 50 and you still have no idea what the heck you're doing with your life. We're all on different paths and we all figure out things differently. Sometimes it takes us a little bit longer. Sometimes people know exactly what they want to do with their life from the time they're 15 on. And although I do think a large age gap can play a role and make things difficult in some aspects, I think it can really work out for some people because of those same reasons, if you guys understand what I'm saying.
Another thing that she might get to in this video, but reference points are really a big deal. So imagine if you went through COVID and your partner did not, like if we were in the future, that's a huge reference point that there's going to be a major disconnect between those two people. One person saw war, one person didn't. One person went through this huge, like one person went through 9/11 and was seriously impacted by it, and the other person was too young to know what was going on. All of these things make it difficult to connect on deeper levels. So having different reference points because of different ages can really impact the relationship.
And this says, even if the age gap is small, like 4 to 5 years, different levels of maturity can be observed, says Brandy Porch, a licensed professional counselor with MindPath. When there is a significant difference in age, like 10 to 15 years or more, life experiences can be vastly different. So that goes back to what I said before of, just the amount of life that you've experienced and how that shapes you as a person. Even as I get older year to year, as I post on YouTube, as I learn more about the world, about myself, my opinions change on things. And I think that's okay. And, that can make or break a lot of relationships. So regardless of the age, whether you're 2 years apart, 3 years apart, 20 years apart, that can also impact your relationship as well. It's not just the relationships with the bigger age gaps. So again, I think it's really important to look at you and the person that you're seeing and look at things on more of just an age level and more of a compatibility level of our values aligned? Do we, have ideas about life that are the same? Maybe that could be religion, politics, your goals in your life. What do you want? Do you want a family? Does the other person not want a family? Just making sure that you're in alignment on these big life decisions is what works. And I think obviously communication is really important here too, and making sure that you're effectively communicating that to each other and being honest and making sure that you're on the same page. So this one is from BBC and it says, age gaps, the relationship taboo that won't die. Societies are increasingly progressive. Today, many people accept that love presents in many ways. So why do people still judge couples who are many years apart? A viral chart from 2019 keeps popping up on social media, a graph detailing Leonardo DiCaprio's dating history. A Reddit user had spotted a trend. Although the actor was 44 at the time, he seemingly only dated women aged 25 or younger, always breaking up with the partner before they reached their 26th
Yuck, not cool.
Responses to the chart were mixed. Some commended DiCaprio for his ability to attract younger women. Of course, he's handsome and
not really
famous
anymore
and wealthy.
Used to be.
It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
While others berated the veteran actor, begging him to find someone closer to his own age.
Yeah.
Even at 3 years old, the chart continues to resurface as commentators keep a keen eye on DiCaprio's current relationship with 24-year-old Camilla Morrone.
Yeah, it's weird.
The reactions to the actor's dating habits embody the contentious views surrounding age gap relationships. For some, they are a source of admiration, while for others, there is something inherently unsettling about coupling up with a much younger person. From Demi Moore to Ashton Kutcher to George and Amal Clooney, high profile age gap relationships always set tongues wagging. Although in 2014, the average age difference in US heterosexual relationships was relatively small, 2.3 years, many couples have a much wider gap. In Western countries, around 8% of male female couples have an age gap of 10% or more, rising to 25% in male male and 15% in female female.
So I want to just stop here and get you guys' thoughts. Why do you think that in male to male unions and female to female relationships, there's a wider age gap than in male to female unions? I think that's fascinating.
Our views around
So let me know in the comments below.
Age gap relationships are shaped by thousands of years of evolutionary psychology and generations of social and cultural norms. Within the last 100 years, economic shifts and increased gender equalities have changed what is considered normal age gap, and recent social justice movements have increased scrutiny of power dynamics in mixed age relationships. Couples with large age gaps often face judgment, and while some experts believe that this could be about to change, others argue that young people could be becoming more disapproving of mixed age love than ever before.
So I want to know what you guys think about this, because I actually am pretty judgmental about an age gap greater than 10 years because I found that studies show that it's not likely to work out. But I want to hear what your opinion is, because maybe I'm looking at it the same way people look at interracial dating. And I think that there's no need to have judgment around that. But maybe, maybe I need to change my perspective.
In many cultures,
so let me know what you think in the comments below about that too.
It is not considered acceptable to fall in love with someone who is much older or younger than you, says Dr. Elena Tironi, a consultant psychologist and co-founder of the Chelsea Psychology Clinic in London. From an evolutionary perspective, the drive to have a family can have an impact on who we choose to have a relationship with, both from a biological perspective, but also in the sense of both parents being alive to raise the child.
Makes sense.
And this also brings up the topic of fertility and the fact that a woman's fertility window is much, much smaller than a man's. This is just the way that it is. This is the way we are biologically. It's nothing new here. And actually, I saw something really interesting that I want to share with you. It says, when no one is talking about the fact that infertility amongst women in the US grew from 8.1% in 2019 to 13% in 2022, which is the fastest rate infertility has ever grown at. 1 in 8 women under 30 will struggle to conceive, 1 in 5 if you're over 30. So this says, for both men and women, fertility tends to decline after the age of about 35. And though women lose their ability to conceive much more rapidly, it makes sense that we evolved to be attracted to people who are similarly aged. So now this goes into talking about the statistics among age gap couples and what I mentioned before, the fact that if you're closer in age, your relationship tends to last longer and be more successful than a couple who has a large age gap. Of course, this is not every couple in the world, but this is just according to the research that has been done. So this says, it's not just about parenting. However, pairing up with someone of a similar age makes your relationship more likely to go the distance, research shows. Experts believe that this is because couples tend to go through life changes and stages at a similar time and can therefore continue to find common ground. In the initial 10 years of marriage, people report higher levels of marital satisfaction when their partner is younger than them. However, over time, the marital satisfaction of different age couples declines more than similar age partners. The probability of similar age couples divorcing is also lower.
Why do you think that is? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Super interesting.
Despite these factors nudging us towards partners of the same age, socioeconomic circumstances can sometimes counteract evolutionary urges. In 1900, the average age gap between couples was double the gap in 2000. Historically, people, particularly those in the middle and upper classes, would have been much more likely to marry someone far older and younger than them. And I think that this is still the case for a lot of people. The reasons for this are both biological and economic. If a 50-year-old man wants to have children, it is not in his interest to couple up with a similarly aged woman who is much less likely to still be fertile. In a patriarchal society in which men have the economic power, the choice to pair up with much younger women would be more likely to be available to him. And this is really interesting, and I want to give a thought about this. It says, in the 19th and early 20th centuries, most women were excluded from the workforce, so it made sense for them to prioritize marrying someone who had already achieved financial security. But even now, as women are becoming more successful in the workforce, they are still going after men who are either at their level or above them. Of course, not all women. I don't want to make it seem like every single woman does that, but a lot of women do because it's in our evolutionary biology to go for someone who has resources that we do not, or who can provide for us, protect, and make us feel safe. And as I mentioned in my "A third of men under 30 aren't having sex" video, there's a connection between labor force participation and a relationship. The survey showed 54% of unemployed Americans didn't have a steady romantic partner, compared with 32% among the employed. So thinking about under age 30, which is when a lot of people, are getting into serious relationships, women are at a certain level or looking for a man higher than that. And the percentage of men who are at their level or above them at the same age range is a small percentage.
Yeah,
between the ages, okay, I just found it. It says between the ages of 20 and 40, as a woman, you have a 2% chance of meeting a man who is above 6 feet and makes more than six figures, or six.
Yeah, so stop doing that. Stop filtering by height, women.
Figures or above. 2%. That makes the pool of men that all these girls are going for so tiny that then they're being forced to go for older men, or decrease their standards and stop worrying so much about how tall someone is and how much money they make. So it's definitely not the norm, but I think it's becoming more normal for these younger women to date older men because their standards are so unrealistic. And then you talk about things like sugar daddy, sugar baby, all of that kind of stuff that, you assume, or people assume when they see an older man with a younger woman. A lot of the time, this is the case. They're providing for her, or they have something to offer that men her age don't, which is often wealth. And I'll say this. Humans are judgmental. We are all very judgmental human beings. When someone does something that doesn't go along with what you believe or what you think or the way that you're living your life, it is very easy to cast judgment onto someone else and their choices. And a lot of the time, some of the time, the judgment is maybe warranted. Not all the time, but sometimes it is. But when it comes to your personal relationships, your life, and being in a happy, healthy relationship, that is so individual and comes down to you. And I think to solely base your relationship and your life off of what other people think about an age gap relationship is just silly, and I think you should do what's best for you. Again, as I mentioned, the statistics show the bigger the age gap, the less successful your relationship likely will be. But that doesn't mean it doesn't work out for some people. There's always exceptions to the rule, and it works for some people. So to get to your question, I get this question so much. What is a good age difference? This is when people say half your age plus 7 is acceptable. So for me, what would that be? Just thinking about this from my perspective, if I were to follow that rule, half of my age, I'm 26, so half of my age would be 13, plus 7 would be 20. I would never date a 20-year-old. How? I just wouldn't. And I do think it's more normal for the man to be older. My fiance is 3 years older than me. My mom is like 5 years older than my dad, though. So it really just depends on what works for you and all that. But this says, what is a good age difference in a relationship? In many cultures, heterosexual relationships where the man is older than the woman are still the most common. In these relationships, it's common for an age gap of 2 to 3 years to exist, which makes sense. Meanwhile, an Australian study from 2017 found heterosexual couples with large age gaps had a faster decline in relationship satisfaction in their first 6 to 10 years of marriage than similarly aged couples. And I imagine this has a lot to do with the life experience and the going through these life changes and milestones together. Couples with an age gap of 1 to 3 years with the man older than the woman were the most common and had the greatest levels of satisfaction, which I feel like is the most common typically. And then relationship satisfaction decreased slightly for couples with age gaps of 4 to 6 years and continued to decrease for couples with an age gap of 7 or more years, as I mentioned before. A Korean study done from 2015 found that same-age couples had the lowest rates of depression, while couples with an age gap of 3 years or more had slightly increased rates. And then I like what it says here. It says, still, numbers rarely tell the full story when it comes to love. It's possible to be much older or younger than your partner and have exactly the right relationship for you. I actually know someone who is in her 30s, and I think she's dating someone who's in their 50s or 60s, and she was really happy with the way that that was working out. So I'll leave you with that. I think it's important to find someone, more importantly than focusing on the age, how many numbers you are apart. Statistics are one thing, and I think it's important to look at them for reference. And if you want to understand why things work versus why they don't, or what has the highest chance of success. But there are plenty of people who are married to people 1 to 3 years apart in age from them, and it still doesn't work out. So to base it solely off of statistics on age, I think is kind of silly. While it can maybe offer you some great insight and information, again, as I mentioned, as to why things might work out versus why they might not, I think it's far more important to focus on, your values and your ideas about life and your goals aligning. I think that's really important for compatibility versus how many years apart you are. There's always exceptions to the rule. There are people out there who are probably watching this like, oh, I'm 20 years older than my wife and we have an amazing relationship. We've been together 50 years. So it works for some people, it doesn't work for other people. But I think to solely base it off of the way our society views it, or maybe the judgment, isn't the way to go. And in that case, it's more important to look at the statistics. And I also want to say there's always an exception to the rule. But that doesn't mean you're going to be the exception to the rule. So sometimes it's helpful to look at statistics, right? I'll just leave that there for you. Let me know what you.
So I think this is an interesting perspective. She's actually making me realize that maybe my judgment towards this is like wrong. So good video, really good video, Courtney. Love the data, love the information. Usually what I tell my students is that an age gap greater than 10 years is very unlikely to work long term, but I do like the way this information was presented, and I know that it is possible, so you never do know. If you like this video, make sure to like it, subscribe to the channel, and leave me a comment in the comments below letting me know your thoughts on this topic. And also, if you have another video that you would like me to react to, I would love to do that. If you're looking for more dating tips and actionable strategies that you can put into play, as well as a strong supportive network to support you on your dating journey, head on over to emlovz.com and learn more about my coaching program, Dating Decoded. In that lifetime coaching program, you're going to get actionable strategies to help you attract your ideal girlfriend, whether she's younger than you, older than you, or the same age. So head on over to emlovz.com to learn more about how I can help support you in your dating journey. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll catch you next time.